fraud comes in all different forms. It could be internal fraud, external fraud, and people need to be aware of the types of fraud that may be perpetrated on the DMV and what actions they can take to curb fraud and to identify fraud, because it does exist, and the criminals get better and better at pulling the wool over the eyes of the DMV, if you will. So the DMV in turn needs to get better at spotting where they might have problems or weaknesses. On Wednesday afternoon, we have a session on the agenda called Unique Fraud. During that session, attendees will hear from Paul Steyer, who's the Chief Investigator for the Iowa Motor Vehicle Division, and from Keith Fowler, who's with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. They're going to talk about unique fraud cases. Everybody has heard of the ID chief. Keith is going to talk about a new fraud bust that ICE recently had, an individual in the United States making counterfeit documents for all 50 states, many of them very authentic looking. Paul is going to talk about some of the interesting cases that are a little different than what folks are used to thinking about when they think of fraud. One of the examples is there's a nurse in a doctor's office here in Georgia that was providing identification information to the bad guys in New York, and they were taking that information and applying for fraudulent real New York licenses based on stolen information from Georgia.
So in the session on combating fraud, we're going to kick it off with talking about an exciting tool that can be used by anybody that has a dependence on identification and wants to use the driver's license, called driver license data verification. And it's a really straightforward, very simple application that basically takes some of the information from a driver's license and allows someone just to make sure that there's a record that matches that. And it will go a long ways to catching a very large number of the fraudulent documents that are out there. The second thing we're going to be talking about in the combating fraud session is the new FDR, fraud detection and remediation. And we're very excited about some of the updates and some of the changes that have been made to the FDR program. And I think that we realize that while there was a heavy focus initially on documents, that the work that FDR is tackling goes beyond that. And that's sort of what the new program addresses. And rounding out the session, we're going to have a individual from Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Forensic Lab there to talk about how we can collaborate better with one another on alerts within the fraudulent document community or the community dealing with fraudulent documents. We want to make sure that the people that need the information get it into their hands. And so we'll be kind of kicking around some ideas that we have about how to do that more effectively.